We're golden. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a globally renowned raw foods expert and has a quarter of a century of experience on the raw lifestyle. She has raised her 3 sons on a raw vegan diet and is the creative director of rawliving.eu, Europe's leading resource for raw foods and superfoods online, for which she has created over 20 unique products. She is the author of the best-selling recipe books, Eat Smart, Eat Raw, Raw Living, and Raw Magic. She also gives talks and workshops on raw foods around the world. Welcome to the show, Kate Magic.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. You have such a depth and a well of knowledge. And I just discovered before we started that you recently went to Egypt, which I'm excited about. There's so much we can dive into. I told you at the beginning that I don't know anything about raw foods, so I'm not an expert. So if you want to give people a little bit about your background, why you're doing what you're doing, how it all started, then we can kind of take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, so the most common question actually I get asked, there's 3 questions. One is, why did you start? The next one is, how old are you? But why did I start? That's the most common question I get asked. And I don't have like a really good answer. For me, it was just like intuitive. And I just, I didn't have like a health scare or anything like that. I just always naturally gravitated towards healthy foods. And there wasn't a lot of that around when I was a kid, back in the 70s in London. So, really, I think for me, obviously, my name's Kate Magic. I really believe in energy. I really believe in frequency. And I think everything holds a frequency. Everything holds a vibration. And I just naturally resonated with that high, very kind of clear, pure vibration of raw food. So all the foods I was given as a kid didn't really kind of sit with me. I didn't really enjoy them. I didn't have that healthy relationship to food as a teenager. And then discovering raw foods, that's what really kind of helped me really be in my body and be comfortable in my body and feel good about myself. So I just, from late teens, really, I started getting into veganism and sprouting and all that kind of stuff. And then it was 93 when I had a friend who told me I was a raw feeder. So there were so few raw feeders then, I didn't even know what it was. So he said, you're like a raw feeder, because basically I just ate salad and sprouts and fruit. So it was 1993 when I made the conscious decision to be a raw fooder, but this is before the internet. So really, the whole way we thought, the whole way we communicated, the whole way we found information was so different back then. So really, even though I kind of tapped into people like Gabrielle Cousins and the main 2 things I had was Anne Wigmore, who she's had the Hippocrates Health Institute, which is still going now, and Victoria's Kulvinskas. They're like the kind of godparents of the current raw food movement. Really, though, what I learned came from just listening to my body and listening to my intuition. And that's, for me, that's where the magic of it is that, I believe the body has this innate intelligence, this quantum intelligence, if you like. And it's about tapping into that and really tapping into, the natural healing powers of our body and the natural energy sources of our body, and working with those and just kind of, operating on a really high level, I guess. Like, I don't know a lot about your work, but I guess there's a lot of parallels in that the body is just this amazing vehicle, isn't it, for the soul, and it's just trying to like keep your vehicle in pristine condition to be the most like amazing, the most amazing vehicle that we can inhabit.
That's amazing. I love that. I love it. I love your pre-internet. You're going around, you don't even know what the label is. And it's nice to see that there are a lot of people looking at what to eat now, veganism, vegetarianism, all that kind of stuff. I just had Dr. Will Tuttle on, and he World Peace Diet. You might be familiar with him. And, he was a mind blower and very beautiful human. I learned a lot. And so I wonder for a lot of the people, either I would think most are not vegan yet or raw food. So can you give a little bit of maybe like a summary of what it means to be a raw food person? What are some of the benefits of why you'd want to do that? And maybe like some practical steps if they want to move towards that.
Yeah, so veganism is like huge right now in England. It's like having its moment right now. Like vegan is everywhere. So that's so validating and just so wonderful to see and to experience. But it's, there's a really, really high, I forget what the percentage is, but something like 80% of people go vegetarian or go vegan and then stop doing it within quite a short space of time. And I feel like that's because a lot of times people have a good intention and they kind of, a lot of times now people are seeing those documentaries like Cowspiracy, those kind of things. And that's really kind of making them think, oh, maybe this, maybe I should follow this kind of diet. But then if you haven't got the right nutritional information, you haven't got the right resources, your body starts craving the nutrients if you're not making sure that you're getting the nutrients. Your body's, again, it comes back to your body's intelligence. If you're low in calcium, your body remembers, oh, I used to get calcium from eating cheese. So then you start craving cheese again. This is why it's really important to listen to your body. If you're craving fish, if you're craving cheese, is a good reason for that. So that's what I'd really try and help people do, is look at really the most important nutritional principles. And I think rather than breaking it down into labels like vegan or raw foodist, which can actually be unhelpful a lot of the time, because as soon as we start to limit ourselves and restrict ourselves, then it's just, I really believe in just going with the flow and just really tapping into the energies of things rather than, trying to control things. And so to me, the most important things is hydration. I think hydration is really key. Like, most people are really dehydrated. So getting really good quality drinks, but that would mean not just water, but things like plant milk. So I make a lot of superfood milks where I put all my superfoods into the milk, like hemp or coconut. I do a lot of medicinal teas. So I use a lot of Chinese herbs, which are really amazing. I really love the Chinese herbs. So I make teas with the herbs, with the fresh herbs. I drink a lot of kombucha, make my own kombucha, coconut water. What else? Juice, green juice. I drink green juice nearly every day as well. So yeah, getting drinks, that's really important, because it doesn't matter what you're eating. If you're not hydrated, your body can't absorb the nutrients properly. So really, really, getting those amazing drinks. And I think, there's been an increased awareness over the past 10, 20 years of drinking more water. And a lot of people now are drinking a lot more water. As a kid, no one bought bottled water. There was Evian, and that was it. Like, people drinking water. But actually, what a lot of people don't realize is that just drinking water by itself isn't very hydrating, because water is a cleansing mechanism. So when you just drink plain water, it's lacking, like a flushing mechanism. It's just going through the body. So that's why you can drink a lot of water and still be thirsty. Whereas if you drink things like coconut water or kombucha or kefir or green juice, these things actually get absorbed in the body in a different way. So drinking lots, that's my number one thing. Alkalization is really key. Fermented foods is really key. I think having a low sugar diet is really key. So not having too much fruits, not having too much sugars, but really I do the ketogenic thing, which you probably know about. So low carb and high fat diet. I think that's really good for athletes, definitely for people doing a lot of exercise. Obviously mindfulness is a really big part of it as well, because it's a journey of self-love. That's the biggest thing, is self-love. How can you love yourself? How can you have compassion for yourself? Because when you love and have compassion for yourself, then you can extend that to the people around you, and that's how it all starts. So it's really, having that mindfulness of doing what's making you happy and doing what's making you feel good, rather than setting this set of rules around yourself and beating yourself up and thinking, I'm a good person if I eat this, and I'm a bad person if I eat that, because it's not,
It's exactly how it works, isn't it? Now, I really like your approach. I had my friend Adam Hart on a long time ago. I think it was like episode 4 or 5, and he wrote Power Foods, something like that. He's awesome, really smart. But he talked about how when you eat the food, you're just saying, is this a choice of love? Am I loving myself in this decision? And basically bringing consciousness into it, and then adding things like seeds and things like that into the food. Do you want to comment on that?
No, that's totally it. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to give back, because I'm curious about it, is you talked about superfood milk, which I find fascinating. Medicinal teas, hydration, all these different things for you come naturally. And I know you have, you've not naturally, you've learned about it, and now you're teaching it at workshops and things like that. When I'm in LA, usually that's when you people come out. and I'm eating this stuff that I don't know what it is, but it's magical and I feel great. But then when I go and I'm traveling and I'm like getting settled, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing. I want to be settled and I want someone like you in my neighborhood to feed me. Can you talk a little bit about like some simple things like that you could add if you want to start to get into it, like how to make a superfood milk, what it does, and maybe some other like quick tricks? The only one that I have right now is chia seed pudding with, I hope that's good. I don't know. But I use that consistently. So once I get one, I keep it in there and I keep it really basic because I'm getting what I need.
Yeah. So in terms of superfoods, then I don't really like the term superfoods. It's a bit of a kind of hype by marketing term. Really what we're talking about is herbs. We're talking about natural plant medicine. And, you know, we're really blessed now that we can draw from Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, South American herbalism, European herbalism. We can put all these traditions together and really, you know, utilize, you know, thousands of years of experience and wisdom that they've gathered over the years. So in terms of where to start, I think it's a good idea to just break it down and look at having at least one green powder a day and one adaptogenic herb and one of the medicinal mushrooms. So the green powders would be chlorella, spirulina, barley grass, wheatgrass, hemp protein, chlorophyllate algae, phytoplankton, any of those microalgae, because they're really, really nutrient dense. So I definitely have one of a green powder in every day. And then the adaptogenic herbs. So adaptogens are plants which don't have a specific effect in the body. They have an individual effect. So we're used to having a medicine that treats a symptom. So you take something for arthritis and you take something for migraine and you take something for athlete's foot and you take, you know, everything's split up. But what adaptogens do is they support the body in restoring homeostasis. So they just help bring the wholeness back to the body, and they regulate things. So the same thing can have opposite effects in two different people. So for instance, there's a South American adaptogen I use called suma. It's a vine from the Amazon, and some people take suma and they literally just need to lie down. They'd like feel so super chilled out and just like dreamy and like relaxed. And then other people take suma and they need to go for a run because they've got so much energy. So it's a really powerful adaptogenic herb. Maca is probably the most well-known adaptogenic herb, and a good example of how it balances people is that it's thermogenic. So it regulates body heat. It helps like restore the body's natural thermostat. And so if someone gets cold really easily, then it can help them stop suffering from the cold so much. And if someone is having like hot flashes or hot sweats, it can help cool them down. So some people it's going to warm you up, some people it's going to cool you down. So taking adaptogens is like the best thing for the immune system, to take an adaptogen every day. So the main ones everyone knows is maca, reishi, which is from the medicinal mushrooms, ginseng, and then ashwagandha is the main adaptogen from Ayurvedic medicine. And then the medicinal mushrooms are just, you know, like I really love Chinese medicine so much. I know so little about it, but you know what I do know is just so fascinating to me. And the medicinal mushrooms, you've got the main four are chaga, cordyceps, reishi, and lion's mane. So they all have slightly different properties, but they're also really amazing for the immune system. So I would just break it down like that. I mean, the thing about superfoods is it really is less is more, and you can take them in really small amounts. So with a lot of them, something like reishi, you only need to take a quarter of a teaspoon a day. You don't need to take, you know, it's not something that you get resistance to. You need to keep taking more and more. So yeah, you can just take them in really small amounts, and it is like a cumulative effect. So it's better to take them and just take a tiny bit over a long period of time than to like do a whole load and then forget about it. It's the same like with exercise. Like if you were new to yoga, you wouldn't have a day doing 8 hours of yoga because you'd feel like really sore afterwards. You'd do an hour of yoga a day and then you start to feel the benefits. So that's when they really come into play, is when you take them on a daily basis. And yeah, it's kind of like homeopathy, I feel, or flower essences. It's just like getting the energy of the plant into your body. So it's not about the quantity, it's just about having that information kind of downloading into your system on a daily basis.
Awesome. That's super practical. Well, right now I'm in Maine with David Lombear Senepas, who is a native elder, and what he knows about plants and the the discussions I've seen as he's walked through the forest with people who know a lot more than I do are very fascinating, and just talking about the same idea that, you know, you have to take the plant raw as it is. It has the information, you know, and if you mass manufacture some of it, you're going to lose that type of thing depending on what the plant is, things like that. So it can get pretty fascinating. I want to ask one more practical question before I kind of move it in a little bit of a different direction, but would you be able to give either 1 to 3 really quick, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks that if people want to move, you know, it's something that tastes good, it's really easy to make. There might be too many, maybe you just want to do one of each, but I find that to move people in a direction, it's just like good to have one set thing. So when I teach meditation, I say do 1 minute the first day. So if you have one breakfast, you can make one lunch, one dinner, at least you're getting the energy in motion.
Yeah, well, the milks, that's one of my top things. So I either use the shelled hemp seed, because then you don't need to strain it through a milk bag. The shelled hemp seed just has the shells removed, so they're just little white seeds. They come from Canada usually, actually. Manitoba Harvest, that's the best brand. And then I just blend that up. I've drank a whole jug.
Nice.
In that one, I had 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds. I had a tablespoon of tocotrienols, which I love. They're vitamin E powder. And they make it kind of creamy and fluffy as well. I put some strawberries in, because strawberries are in season. I put in a tablespoon of maca. I put in some Jing herbal formula, which is like a Chinese herbal formula. And then I put in a cup of kefir for the probiotics, and just water to top it up. But yeah, if you start with your base as shelled hemp, that's really easy to do. Or you could do almonds, but if you use almonds, then you've got to strain them through a milk bag, because otherwise you get the kind of skin of the almonds in the milk. And then just, like maca is my favorite, but reishi is also good in the milks. Whatever kind of superfoods you feel drawn to, that's a really good way to have it. Because of what I was saying about the drinks, when you put fats into your drinks, it helps the body absorb it better. So any kind of, just a bit of oil or a bit of nuts and seeds, that's going to help the body hydrate better. And then also you're getting all the nutrients from the superfoods, and those are going straight into the system as well. So to do a hemp milk every day, that's a really good tip. And then I guess lunch, my simplest one would be nori sheets. So I really, really love nori. And I do lots of raw sushi. I make the rice out of cauliflower rice. It's really good. Everyone loves it. But yeah, you could just like get a nori sheet and then wrap it up. Like I always put something creamy in, like avocado or tahini, or almond butter, and then something a bit spicy like mustard or wasabi or horseradish, or something to give it a bit of zing, just a bit of cayenne or chili, and then just fill it with veggies like veggie sticks and sprouts and greens and all stuff like that. So that's really easy to do.
Amazing. Sounds good. What about dinner?
My favorite actually is Korean. This isn't like, well, it is kind of simple, but my favorite is Korean. So in Korean, like one of their main dishes is called bibimbap, which means like all together basically. So they have like a bit of seaweed, a bit of shiitake mushroom. They usually have cucumber, carrot, the rice. So I do all these like little bits, and then they have this really amazing sauce, gochujang sauce, which is like this spicy Korean sauce. And then you pour that over the top. And in bibimbap, usually they have a fried egg. So I make my fried eggs with coconut meat, you know, the Thai young white coconut meat. So I get that, and then it looks like the white of the egg. And then I make the center turmeric and tahini and make the yolk. And it tastes so good because it's kind of similar. It's like protein in it, isn't it? And it's really, really delicious. So that's my favorite, because I like that because you've got all the different bits, so you can eat it like a few days in the week, and it's not like you're eating the same thing every day, because you kind of, okay, one day I have it with seaweed and one day I have it with kale, or one day I have it with spinach. You know, I kind of just play around with it a bit.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
That helps.
All my recipes on katemagic.com. There's all my recipes.
Yeah, and your websites and stuff, katemagic.com, rawliving.eu, there's a massive amount of resources there.
Yes.
Okay, so while you said that, you know, another question that came up, is there anything that you really want people to know about, you know, raw food eating? You know, like, what would you share? Like, if you could like give
Okay.
a memo to the entire world, like in a tweet or something.
Yeah, I think 100% raw is a bit of a myth, and there's really no one who's doing that. And if they are, they're probably lying. I think, obviously, if you're vegan, you can't be like, I'm vegan and I eat eggs every day, because it's not how it works. But with raw food, to me, anyone who's committed to eating more than 50% raw on a daily basis, that's a raw fooder. So with raw food, it's just about consuming large amounts of raw food. It's not that you have to eat all raw food all the time. I think that's the most common misconception. So as long as you're eating more than 50% raw, you're going to feel all the benefits. So if you just switch over, like you're saying, just switch over your breakfast and your lunch, boom, you're just going to get all those benefits. So yeah, not to feel like you have to do it all, because I think that's what puts people off, is they feel like it is like a really profound thing to do. So it's not like the thing that most people can just like switch overnight. And also, eating is like such a social thing. So it's the kind of isolation that people experience when they're eating different food from everyone else around them. So just to incorporate more raw food in your diet, rather than thinking, I have to like change everything. It's like you could just switch up, kind of like you were saying about meditation. If you just switch up one food at a time, if you did one food every week for a year, by the end of the year, you just switched up your diet. But if you try and switch up 50 foods at once, it's not going to sustain. So the body really works when you do things slowly. Like, the body really likes it when you make small changes over long periods of time. The body doesn't like it when you do these like massive things, because then there's going to be like a rebound. So small changes over long periods of time is always more effective.
Brilliant. Amazing. You just lifted a weight off my shoulders. So I was totally, that worked for me. So, so then now I have a follow-up question. Can you give some common substitutes? So the ones that come to mind right now are coffee, because I drink too much coffee.
Yes.
Sometimes coffee, sweets, people who like run to a sweet, or like salty, like a chip. So maybe you can give 3 quick substitutes for that.
Yes. So coffee is like a really common one, and I try not to be anti anything, but I'm not happy about people drinking coffee. I just feel like coffee is really normalized to like a dangerous degree. And because of how the endocrine system works, when you're drinking coffee, you're just tweaking your adrenals all the time. And the endocrine system is such a delicate balance of all those different hormones, and as soon as you put one out of balance, you're having a knock-on effect on all of them. So the fact that our culture is so busy, do, and so many people are just like hammering their adrenals, that to me, that's one of the main causes of all the problems, thyroid, obesity, diabetes, women's hormonal issues, all this, the way that we abuse our adrenals, that really plays a key part in it. So there's lots of things you can do. I actually have kombucha every morning. I make my own kombucha, and I feel like that gives me the same kind of lift that people get from coffee, that same kind of energy lift. And I make it, and I put cordyceps in it, which is one of the medicinal mushrooms I was saying. And cordyceps is really good for energy and performance, so a lot of athletes use it. So I have cordyceps kombucha in the morning. But if you want to do a hot drink, then what works really good is, matcha, the green tea matcha. So matcha has traces of caffeine, it's small amounts of caffeine, but what it does contain is L-theanine, and L-theanine is a substance which promotes focus and concentration, so it gives you that same kind of buzz that coffee does, and it's really high in antioxidants. So if you match matcha with chaga, which is the other medicinal mushroom I was talking about, which is also super high in antioxidants. So there's 4 things that are just like off the charts in terms of antioxidants. You've got chaga, you've got matcha, you've got raw chocolate, cacao, and also there's astaxanthin, which is it's in flamingos, it's what makes them pink. It's in salmon, but it's an antioxidant. It's really good for your eyes if people have got problems with their eyes. But if you combine chaga and matcha together, because it's such a massive antioxidant boost, and you're getting the L-theanine from the matcha, then that really gives you a lift. And chaga has a similar taste to coffee, so that works really well. And then you could also, if you wanted to take it another step further, you could also add cacao, because cacao contains tryptophan. Tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. Serotonin is the most happy chemical in the brain, and there's substances, the L-theanine in the matcha also helps with the release of serotonin. So you get a huge serotonin spike as well from the cacao. and the matcha. And then you could also, if you wanted, you could also add in maca, because maca is really good for physical energy and stamina. So depending how much of a boost you need, you could just do chaga and matcha, or you could also add in the cacao or the maca, or all four together, and then that really gives you a supercharge.
Sounds epic. I'll
Yeah,
try
if
it.
you just add it with hot water, and then you can just if you want to make it creamy, you know, the coconut butter, like the coconut cream, like they call it different things in different countries, but that kind of thick, it's like coconut oil but really thick and creamy. You blend that up with it, and that makes it really nice and creamy. Or just, you can just add almond milk or whatever.
Right. Okay. That's brilliant. Now, what about people who are stuck on sweets? They escape to a sweet, and then all of a sudden they're eating too much ice cream, or they got chocolates. Do you have something for that?
Yeah, well, raw chocolate is like a big passion of mine. So I do eat quite a lot of raw chocolate. Although I haven't had any today. It's nearly 6 o'clock in England, and I haven't had any raw chocolate all day. But obviously, yeah, raw chocolate is amazing. When I was transitioning, I used to get fresh dates, you know, the medjool dates, and then I take the stone out and then put in some tahini or almond butter, and that's really good because you're getting that sugar fat hit. That's like a really quick, easy way to get your sugar fat hit, but so full of nutrition. Yeah, I mean, I do make cakes. I've got a really good chaga tiramisu. I've got a really good banoffee pie. Those are my favorite cakes at the moment. But I guess for me personally, yeah, my default would be some raw chocolate, some good raw chocolate.
Amazing. And so would that work the same way when people kind of, I think it's just a sugar fix, right? People want that
Yeah,
sugar fix. So you
yeah,
can do it through raw food and just get it in a little bit of a different way.
yeah, definitely, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And last recommendation would be for people maybe eat too much potato chips or go the other
Yeah,
way, salty with it.
we do. Well, kale chips is the obvious one, but we do these seeds that everyone really loves. They're activated seeds. So we have sunflower and pumpkin seeds. And so when you activate seeds, you soak them and then you make them more digestible. Seeds and nuts are actually designed not to break down in the body. They're designed by nature to be consumed by a bird or a squirrel or whoever, and then pooped out somewhere else to grow into a plant or a tree. So they're designed not to break down in the body. So when we soak our nuts and seeds, and that makes them more bioavailable, more digestible. So we soak our seeds and then we marinate them in all these kind of spices and herbs. So we got spirulina sun seeds and shiitake sun seeds, and people really love the shiitake ones. Kind of remind me a bit of dry roasted peanuts. It's got that same kind of like roasted kind of flavor. Yeah, so I'm sure like most people in the States or in Canada now have access to those kind of things in the health food store. They're kind of in the health food stores, you know, they're going to have those kind of snacks. Or if you've got a dehydrator, you can make your own.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I wanted to go all those ways, and I kind of still do, because I know that you're a wealth of knowledge in that. And again, I'll use your website as a resource because I browsed it and I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff here. So if you want to learn more, you can go that way. And the other way that I could have easily started with this is just talking to you about philosophy, spirituality, empowerment, and things like that. And so the first question I'll just ask is, you know, what happens with your, you know, women empowered workshops? Like, as far as your writing and your spirituality and your, you know, connection with source or whatever, like what do you teach in those workshops? What are the things you try to share?
Thank you. So this is a new project that I just started this year. I launched the book. Actually, I launched the book. It was all very synchronicitous, but I launched the book because I like my magic numbers. I launched it on the 8th of January, which was, depends whether you're in the States or Europe, but it's 8118 or 1818. And that was actually the day after the Oprah Winfrey Golden Globes speech. So everyone was talking about that day was, you know, empowered women. So it's really, empowered women is really looking at our hormones, and, you know, like I was just saying about the adrenals, really coming to understand the importance of the endocrine system and how key our hormones are, and how, you know, basically, in my understanding, they are the mind body spirit connection. Like, we talk about this, and if you're a holistic person, you kind of have an intuitive understanding of what that is, but hormones are they are actually it, because it's the body creates them in response to a perceived stimulus. So you will see a tiger or a lion coming into the room, and you will release adrenaline because you decide it's an emergency, and that adrenaline then will help you run faster and breathe quicker and run away from the scary animal. So it's literally, you know, we see something external to ourselves, we make a decision based on what that is, and then we create a biochemical in our bodies in response to how we think we need to act. And so just really understanding the difference between male and female hormones, and understanding how that creates different drives and desires for men and women. And within the Western culture, it tends to be biased towards the male hormonal system. I think the Western culture isn't supportive to anyone particularly. I think that the whole kind of, you know, saying the kind of work culture isn't kind to anyone, but it's particularly unkind to women, because we just have different biological needs. We have different drives and desires, and women have a tendency to internalize. So women have a tendency then to see, rather than seeing, oh, well, I don't feel this way about this and I'm going to do something about it, they tend to they have a tendency to go, I don't feel this way about this, I must be wrong. and internalize, and then make themselves feel inferior or make them feel not good enough. And, you know, it came through a lot of different things, but through my work as a raw food educator, it's mostly women that I'm working with. It's mostly middle-aged women. And seeing the kind of same pattern again and again, where these women are eating a relatively healthy diet, and they're trying to do exercise, you know, yoga once or twice a week, and they're trying to be mindful, and, you know, they're trying to do all the things that you should make you feel good, and they're still not having that energy, they're still not feeling great about themselves, they still haven't got enthusiasm for life. And really understanding that this is a big part of it, is really listening to those biochemical impulses and what they're trying to tell us, and tuning in just on a kind of deeper level as to what we really need as women. Because I think because of that tendency to internalize, what happens a lot of the time is women then, because they've internalized it, then start to blame people around them, and they'll be like, oh, well, this person doesn't do that for me, or, you know, this situation isn't right in this way, rather than looking at how we can change things ourselves. So it's really understanding on a personal level what your needs are on a basic biochemical level, and then how do you get those met, how do you go about getting those met. So there's so many examples, like things that, you know, I tell people, and it's really epiphany, but just, you know, for instance, women make testosterone as well, but men make 20 times more testosterone than women. So testosterone is associated with confidence. Testosterone gives you confidence. So men, obviously, you know, and when I'm doing all this work, I have to really, you know, I'm obviously generalizing, and there's a spectrum, and we're all somewhere on that spectrum of male-female energies. So it's not like all men are like this and all women are like this, but on the spectrum, men generally have a lot more confidence than women. So as soon as you understand it's just a biochemical thing, it's not mansplaining or, you know, all these kind of words, it's just men feel more confident about themselves. So and then kind of in a converse way, once you understand that as a woman, it helps you feel more confident because your lack of confidence isn't due to the fact that you're not as good. Your lack of confidence is just due to different chemistry going on in your body. Does that make sense? We have a lot more oxytocin. We create a lot more oxytocin, and oxytocin is fed by attention. Women actually biochemically need more attention than men. We need more attention. It's not like women are needy or women are desperate, but we need more attention. So it's really important that we understand that need for attention and meet it by giving ourselves attention, giving ourselves the right kind of attention, and spending time with our girlfriends, spending time with our sisters, not being like, oh, he didn't do this, he didn't say that. Because men don't need as much attention. Men have twice as much serotonin as women. Serotonin is the main happy chemical in the brain, and one of the main ways that we create serotonin is by talking. So women literally need to talk twice as much as men just to be happy.
Like crap.
Yeah. Women need to talk much. So all these things are not just like, oh, women or oh, men. It's like, no, these are our basic needs. And, you know, obviously I'm really summarizing, there's a lot more to it, but once we start understanding these, we can then just, you know, with the raw food work, I feel it's a lot for people to take on with the raw foods. That's why I was saying, like, just do a little bit at a time. You know, it is a big life change. But with the empowered woman work, I feel like it's micro changes a lot of the time. It's just like making a change in your schedule, making sure you prioritize getting time with your girlfriends once a week, or making sure you prioritize that bath with the candles and whatever it is, the incense once a week, or just these little things. And then just know that those things are important to you for your health, so that you can be, give. And see, this is the thing as well. I think women love to give, they love to please, and they love to serve. And we all do, but women particularly have this need to just show love. And a lot of times that gets turned back in on ourselves because we live in a culture that isn't so loving. So really just understanding how we can support that, our natural drives and desires. And then obviously once we start doing that, then we can contribute to the wider culture in a really meaningful way. Because I think this is one of the huge problems with Western culture right now, is that lack of appreciation for the feminine in all of us, in terms of being rather than just doing. Who are you as a person? Not what is your label, what is your status, how many followers have you got, but who are you as a person? That's what we really need to come back to. That, a lot of cultures haven't lost that. Like, we were both recently in Egypt, and I really felt that there with the Egyptians, like the beauty in their humanity was just really touching to me. But we've lost that in a lot of Western cultures, haven't we?
Yeah. Very, very beautiful and well put. I don't even know how to respond to that. I usually have something to say. I don't, other than wanting you to continue. And maybe I'll just seed the thought of, what are your thoughts on, basically anyone, man or woman, growing up to get to the basic principles of feeling good. I was in Costa Rica, and one of my friends has a beauty product, and was having a conversation with a few women and realizing that so many, and I just had this really deep understanding that so many women don't feel beautiful, right? They don't feel like enough. And it's different. Men have some bullshit to deal with, but you guys in that kind of shit, it's way worse. You know what I mean? Plus you've got these fake photos, you know what I mean, that are going out of these perfect things, and what we're doing to like Western women, Europe as well. I guess just be shooting back, like how do we women feel beautiful, men feel confident, create a spiritual connection, and then deliberately start to create a reality. Because I know you talk a little bit about frequency, source, vibration, manifestation, and we can go into Egypt a little bit, but I'll just kind of give you something super general and let you continue.
My latest thing, I've been doing it for about a month, this is my little tip, is that like social media is so addicting. So dopamine is like one of the hormones that I go into a lot in the book. Dopamine is so fascinating, but dopamine is the main hormone associated with addiction. So dopamine, they used to think dopamine was released by getting to your goal. It's about drive and desire, dopamine. So they used to think dopamine was released by finding what you were going for, but actually dopamine is released in the seeking. Dopamine is released while we're going for it. So that's why social media is so addictive, because all that scrolling, you're releasing dopamine. But then also what's really interesting is when you're releasing dopamine, you're actually blocking the uptake of serotonin, and serotonin is the other main happy chemical in the brain. Serotonin is just more like general well-being, and dopamine is that like like people get addicted to chemical, drugs, to sex, to social media, to junk food. Junk food is really, they put exotoxins in the junk food, which creates a dopamine release. So that's why junk food is so addictive. So just trying to kind of, and I don't think I'm really bad, but obviously I have a little bit of social media addiction, like nearly everyone nowadays. And realizing, like, when I'm picking it up, what am I doing? What am I looking for? What, because we're looking for love, aren't we? We're looking for validation, because we're always looking for love and validation. So what I've started doing is, when I pick it up just out of habit, and then instead of start scrolling, I turn the camera back on myself. I just go on my camera app and I turn the camera back on myself, and I start saying nice things to myself, like, I love you, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you're wonderful. And that's actually so much more. If I do that and I kind of put it down, and sometimes things come out, like you want to tell yourself something, you're worried about some kind of situation, and it helps to just kind of talk to yourself about it. But if you do that for a couple of minutes, put your phone down, you feel so much better than going on social media. It really, that's like my new top tip, is just you just turn it around to tell yourself what you need to hear. You don't need to hear it from other people. You don't need to, because, you know, the big trap, isn't it, is looking. And one of my favorite sayings is, jealousy is the thief of joy. Is it jealousy? Comparison is the thief of joy. And so that's what you're doing, is you're feeling a bit low energy. What should I do now? I'm not sure what to do. Oh, I'll just go on Facebook or Instagram. And then you see, like you're saying, all these kind of perfect images of people doing their perfect lives, and it doesn't make you feel better about yourself. So try it. It's really working for me at the moment.
That's amazing. That's super, super brilliant. Hold on.
Because there's something so addictive about picking the phone up. So I'm still satisfying that thing of, oh, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting how habits and addictions start, because you have this trigger where you go, like, there's a chemical reaction in the brain. So that's telling your body to go do something, grabs the phone. So now you're doing a physical action, you're creating a trigger, and then you're just scrolling. And meanwhile, if you look from an observer point of view, you're basically just walking in, scrolling your phone, doing something, walking in, scrolling your phone, having a coffee. And I'm guilty of it too. And I've set up these little, you got to set up these little catch points to basically break the neural synapses, break that chemical, then reactionary state. And that's like the best, most brilliant one I've ever heard. And I'm going to use that, flip it around, talk to yourself, because, one of the shows I had on, I can't remember which, it could have been Matthew Ferry, but it was, or somebody was like, do you love yourself? And, that's what we're looking for. It is validation, and it's also like this loneliness, I think, that we feel too. I mean, I say we, I'll just say I, in my experience and from what I've done, it's just like, you feel like, am I good enough? And then we look outside and we see all this stuff, and none of it's really real, and we're disassociating from reality.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you wanted to add something. So, okay, well, that's brilliant. So where I'm going to go with it is a little bit deeper. Do you want to talk about anything that you loved about Egypt? If you want to talk about vibration, or if you want to talk about like what your spiritual practices are and your perception of what the heck is the point of this life? I always just like to see this. So, what the heck is the point of this life? How do we live a good, harmonious life? How do we connect to God, if there is a God, or if there's a source, if there's an energy, and what you think about all that really deep stuff?
Yeah, brilliant. I do think it's, well, I say it's magic. That is probably my overused phrase. It's magic. But it's so much there's just like a flow, isn't there? There's like an energy. It's like a river, isn't it? And you step into this river, and this river's always flowing. It's always, and it's got a really strong current, and you can be in it or you cannot be in it, but it's always there. And the more you step into it, the like deeper and more profound, and just the more, it's just like, so the fact that I just came back from Egypt like 2 weeks ago, and then you mentioned within 5 minutes of talking that you went to Egypt and had really profound experiences, and that our experiences were kind of parallel, had stuff in common. Like, that is such a beautiful example of like frequency and energy is more powerful than space and time. Time and space, that's what we perceive as reality, and that's one dimension of reality, but actually frequency and energy and source or universe, whatever you want to call it, is so much more powerful. So when you're operating on a certain frequency, you're going to draw in things to you of that frequency, and that's how synchronicity and serendipity works, is that is more powerful than space and time. It doesn't matter about space and time. On Friday, I was just in London, and I'll try and cut the story short, but I've got like a million of these stories. And I was going to see some friends, but for some reason I was in the wrong street. I got in my head that I was meant to go to the wrong street. So I parked my bike, and my friend from a different country was walking down the street towards me, and she said, oh, we're just looking to go and get a tattoo done. And I was parking my bike outside my tattoo studio, and I'm like, this is where I go. And so she went into tattoo studio and got a tattoo studio, and then I realized I was in the wrong street and went to where I was meant to be. But like, that kind of thing happens all the time. I'll tell you one more, because this is my favorite one. It doesn't get any better than this. So I've been running a retreat in England, and we were on the way home, and we had a connecting train to get, and on the way, the time had been really short, and I was worried we were going to miss our connection. So a friend drove us to a different station so we wouldn't miss the connection. So when we got on the train, we had reserved seats, but someone had sat in our seat because we hadn't been there in the beginning. And she had it was like a 4-seat, and there was 3 of us, and she was sat in my seat, but she had a good energy. She was like, do you want me to move? I'm like, no, it's fine. Doesn't matter, because we can take these other 3 seats. And she sat down, and she's overhearing us talking, and she's asking questions. She's like, oh, I'm interested in retreats. What kind of retreats you do? I'm like, it's Real Magic. She's like, what's your name? I'm going to look you up. Cape Magic. She leant forward. She was very dramatic. She leant forward on the seat, and she was like, I'm Magic Catherine. And she was a professional magician. She was traveling to work, and her name as a professional magician was Magic Catherine. So out of all the people that could have sat on my seat in the train, Magic Catherine is sitting on my seat. My son, who at this age, about 4 years ago, my son's about 10, he's just got into doing magic tricks. He's just decided that he wants to be a magician, and he's doing magic tricks. So he sits next to her, he's sitting next to her on the train, and she starts telling him about how to do, like, join the junior magic circle and get this book. And basically then she helped ignite his whole interest. So they were doing magic tricks on the train on the whole way. Like, could it be any more magic? Like, but that kind of thing becomes normal. Like, I think that's what we're moving towards, and that, people like ourselves are kind of stepping into that. And you might experience it for just a few minutes a day or a few days in the month, but more and more we're stepping into that kind of working with the energies, working with the universe, working with the flow, source, whatever you want to call it, and just moving on a different vibrational level where everything just comes together in a way that's really makes sense. And it's not like everything becomes perfect all the time, everything becomes easy all the time, because challenges is how we grow, isn't it? Like, the hard things are also the best things. And always when I look back in my life, the times when I felt like, oh my God, this is too difficult, I can't do this is really bad, those turn out to be the biggest gifts and the biggest blessings. So it's not like, oh, la-di-da, unicorns and rainbows, everything gets easy, but it's just, you can see why everything's unfolding. Everything that comes to challenge you, you can understand the growth and why that's helpful to you. And it's a different kind of framing, isn't it? I think, we're moving out of the binary, we're moving out of the duality, and we're moving into this understanding that is beyond. This is what Kanye was trying to explain in a really not very helpful and eloquent way, and we've got really misunderstood. But we're moving out of that sense of good and bad and right and wrong, and into this just sense of what is, and all is one, and all is love ultimately. So how are we coming back into that? How do we feed back into that place?
That was amazing. I wish you had more time. I'd ask you 100,000 more questions, but I think that was really beautiful. The only thing that I'd ask or add is just, I agree. And I just kind of see it as a radio frequency, whatever you're going to put out, you're going to get back, not 100%, but the more you're intentional and the more that you're in flow and surrender and have a positive perspective and have an allowing perspective, you can let that stream, take you to those spaces. And then you're like, oh, look at that. Huh. And, you have these fascinating synchronicities happen over and over, and then it becomes normal, and they become really big. And I'll just give one tip for the people who are having those. Try not to say, oh, that's unbelievable, because you're resisting. It's like, oh, this is just normal. Like, of course I see you. We're on the same channel. You should be there. You're doing it. You're a deliberate manifester, creator of your reality, and you're witnessing that in action. So, this is a really beautiful interview. I really appreciate you coming on and your spirit. I would like to talk to you as much as I can. Maybe we'll get you back on. But is there anything that you want to leave the listeners with before we close? Is there anything that you wish that I had asked you, or if you just want to have closing thoughts?
What do I want to say? I think the biggest thing is about self-love. That's really the most important thing. How do we love ourselves? And then everything, it's not about how other people treat you. It's about how you treat yourself. Because if you treat yourself in a loving, beautiful, compassionate way, then, like we were just saying about frequency, the other stuff will bounce off you. You become like Teflon, it won't stick. So it's all about your relationship with yourself. And I'm a really big believer in just minding your own business. Because we have so much of our own business to mind. It's like such a complex such a complex thing being human. Like we change all the time. Like 1 minute we want this, 1 minute we want that. When we get something, it's never what we thought it would be. We don't want it anymore. Like we're always changing. We're always, it's a really profound thing to be human. So just, really focusing on what your stuff is, what you can do, how you can put the most love and positivity and joy into the world and magic into the world. And just that's how we make the change. It's just, there's an Abraham quote, which I love, and they're like, don't face reality unless reality is you want it to be. It's like this is how we make the changes. We stay really focused on what feels right within, what feels important, and what feels good. Like that's really my guiding thing in life, is what feels good. And I always try and step into what feels good right now, what feels right now, rather than letting my head take over and worry and think things through and be too logical, but just really what feels right and just go with that. And then just try not to get involved in other people's business. Like everyone's going to do what they're going to do, and a lot of times you have people around you, people close to you, and you think maybe they should be doing, and it's obviously great if they're asking you for advice, but to just kind of let people do their thing and you do your thing. And then because of frequency, we just match, then we come together. Like that's how me and my friends mostly operate, is we're not like all codependent and like, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do that for me, but I'm like really happy living my life, they're really happy living their life, and let's come together as really happy, joyous people, not like just self-love and minding your own business.
That's very good. I totally agree. The art of self-love is something that ideally we can just master right away, but sometimes it can be a daily effort. And the social media hack, I'm so brilliant. Every time you're going to go on Facebook, every time you go on Instagram, whatever Snapchat, whatever new stupid thing comes up, flip it around, give yourself some self-love, some encouragement. And it's the best hack I've heard in a long time. So I'm definitely going to do it. I appreciate it.
Also, if like I delete some of them because obviously it takes up a lot of storage, but if you keep the best ones, then you can also watch them back, and that's really helpful as well.
Oh, so you record them too?
Yeah.
Oh, totally missed that.
Yeah, I put the camera app on and record myself, tell them I love you, you're beautiful. And then, then when I'm feeling like, then I watch them back.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. That's even better. You just added a whole nother layer. Amazing. Love it. Cool. Well, I appreciate you. You definitely are magical. Hopefully we'll cross paths one day. I wish you were my neighbor so I could come and grab some milk and things here and there.
I'll come to London.
Until then, I'll use your website as a beautiful resource that you've provided people. Just thank you so much for coming on. What are your websites if people want to dive a little deeper?
Yeah, thank you. So Cape Magic, if you Google Cape Magic, it's easy to find. But the shop, which we shop all over Europe, is rawliving.eu. And then my website with my recipes, articles, interviews is capemagic.com.
Amazing. Wonderful.
Do you ever come to London? Have you ever been to London?
Once on a layover, I had enough time to get off the plane and go to a pub in like a really like small, narrow thing, take one of the cool taxis and go back. And in like the 1.5 days in London, I spent like as much as I spent in Thailand for like 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But it was pretty cool. Well, I'm going to come back. I got to see Big Ben. I just went for a random walk and I saw a bunch of cool stuff. It was a very great night.
Yeah. Well, let me know when you're back.
Well, there's this guy, Stu, that has I don't know where Leeds is towards, but it's North Bar. And he's hit me up and he's doing a Matt Belair podcast night as an act of kindness and giving the photo booth for free. And he emailed me because he's like, I don't have social media, but I wanted to do something to help you. And so one night a week, I give the photo booth for free in his bars in Leeds. So when he did that, I was like, dude, I know for sure one day we're going to have a beer at the pub. And he's been sending the pictures and they're hilarious. It's like some normal ones. And then, he just says like there's some butts and like some just ridiculous stuff in there, but it's amazing. So I definitely will be coming out that way one day for sure.
Okay. Let me know.
Will do. Okay. Well, have a good day. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you so much.
See ya.